I am 48 hours into a 72-hour water fast, so I'm hanging on to the edge of the earth by my fingernails.
That's hard. That's a hard one. You're still snapping fast. Way to go. I would have lost cognition a little bit. I've been dragging out and trying to figure out what I was going to say over and over again. So
it's not I'm not hungry anymore. It's weird. I can't explain it, but I'm not hungry anymore. I wasn't hungry yesterday either.
I'd be hungry and bitchy.
It's a weird sensation.
That's me. I'd be mean to I would be mean to everything that walked past in front of me. I'd be calling every bird an MFer, and I'd be looking at it. Wouldn't matter what happened. Why are you talking out there?
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I get to eat tomorrow in 24 hours. So I'm excited about that.
I just saw a new mock draft. George Sanders not even in the first round. I think nobody wants to deal with all his dad's problems.
I don't know.
Or not problems, just that whole drama.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Pacific Calls. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
I'm here. The wind blows. I don't know. I might blow away with it.
Because you've been on 2 days of not eating? What's going to be your meal? So you've gone 72 fast. You fasted for 48 hours. What's your first
24
meal?
more hours. Tomorrow morning I will have 5 eggs.
5 eggs?
Scrambled. That's about my basic breakfast. 3 pieces of bacon and...
Shit, that's $15 worth of eggs these days. That's an expensive little
Jeff, you can't
start.
You can't
might as
hide
well just
money.
have a damn T-bone.
You can't hide money, so I'm gonna splurge on the eggs.
All right, well, you introduce our guest.
Phil's my pharmacist. You're the guy that anytime anything goes wrong in my household, pink eye, croup, whatever, I go to your TikTok and I type in what the symptoms are in my household, and I find a remedy, and it's usually pretty easy. So I always enjoy talking to you. Phil's my pharmacist. On with us again today.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate being on again. And I really love hearing that part. There's nothing better than when you're out in public and somebody said, hey, I tried and it works. And that's what I hear all the time. That's what you want to hear, is that your stuff works more than it is anything else. And I love hearing those stories where people said, hey, my kid had a cough and I got to sleep through the night. And you're like, see, I am doing something worthwhile being on this earth. So.
Well, there's nothing more helpless as a parent than middle of the night, the kid wakes up and you're like, oh, you can't call anybody, especially in Podunk, West Texas. You can't call anybody and get any response. So it's you just got to kind of go to your medicine cabinet and try to figure out how can I Frankenstein a remedy to get us to 8 o'clock in the morning?
Exactly. You used to call grandma, and grandma would always have some sort of take a little of this, do that. And you'd wake up in the morning. Holy crap, grandma knew what she was talking about. And so a lot of mine, it's funny how much people don't understand how much I reach back to older remedies, but then I take some of the new stuff they put on the counter. I just know that this one looks like this one and knows what grandma was talking about, but they made it stronger, or just things that I've used. Being a parent myself over 4 kids, I learned right away that the last thing you want to do is go to an urgent care at midnight, because you're there until 4 a.m. and they'll probably do nothing for you.
I got a question for you. We're going through these big southwest winds and everybody's allergies, and we've had the flu and COVID's going around and all the same stuff like that. What can you do to make you lose that dry cough that you have, that persistent 5-day cough? What throat laws?
Potassium iodine. So you get it. There's a product I always talk about. It's called Ponaris, Ponaris. And then there's another one I talk about, which is Nasamin. So potassium iodine has a bunch of studies that show it helps reduce viral load. And the way that it works is that when you use it orally in Japan, they did this huge study. And they were like, well, let's see if this really works, because everybody was using this swish and spit in their mouth with potassium iodine. And they found that it was so remarkable that they have all of Japan's Ministry of Health said you have to use it. If you get cold, you have to use it because it works so well. Well, the other thing, there's a prescription item called SSKI, and it's super strength potassium iodine. And it changes the cells that produce the mucus. They're called goblet cells, and it produces a more moist mucus instead of a thick one. And so both of those together, you get inside of iodine. So you can take iodine. There's a nasal spray that there's a couple of them out there. In fact, every place except for the United States, it's like on every shelf. And then there's also a mouthwash made by Betadine. When you do those two things, that little bit of iodine, it's not enough to mess with your thyroid. That cough, like it's pretty magical stuff. The prescription, now you'll love this, $280 for potassium iodine, $280, and it just goes right through. Or you can get this stuff, that Poneris or the Betadine, you get it for $15, and it's exact same stuff.
So Betadine is the answer then for this.
I love this stuff. It's where I tell everybody to start. It fixes seriously 3/4 of the cough for people. They do a couple of drops and they spray a couple of sprays. They do a couple of drops in the mouth, spray a couple of sprays, and it just goes away. And your grandma would have told you to go get potassium iodine too. That one's not ours. That one's been around since, I don't know, beginning of FDA for sure, if not longer. So
I got the flu a couple of weeks, and it was a 2 to 3 weeks of the total just not feeling good and stuff. And Michelle told me, she goes, Phil said you need to use the nasal spray. And I'm telling you right now, that nasal spray made a world of difference. A world of difference. Yeah, and I can't remember the name of it. It's what was the name of it?
It's the Nasamin is the one that I have everybody use. Is that the one you're talking about, or is it the triamcinolone with Poneris in it?
Andy, don't look at me. I don't know whatever you were doing.
Whatever we bought last time you were on here, you told us to get these things. Michelle bought like a dozen of them. And it's a long name, but it was a nasal spray, and I take it morning and afternoon when I didn't feel good. And I feel fine again, or I'm feeling a lot better, so I've quit.
Yeah, that would have been the triamcinolone, and then she would have put the Poneris, which has got the potassium iodine in it. So the combination, you just take Nasacort, which you open it up, you put that dropper full of there, and I mean, you'll breathe. It doesn't have the side effects to where you're getting all dried out. It's just fantastic. And for me, it's the safest thing. I mean, it's not going to interact with anything. So I don't have to worry about blood pressure or kidney stones or anything else when I tell people it, which is a trick. You always have to be super careful when you give out advice because, you'll say something like, I don't know, Ivermectin works. And next thing you know, they're taking horse stuff and drinking the horse stuff. You're like, it works, but you may not want to take a horse dose of anything,
No.
Measure it for your body weight.
Like that's the problem. You have to be a little careful because there's the little's good and the lot's better people out there that you have to no, a lot's not always better. A little might be just good enough. So
right.
I'm an Ivermectin person. I take 3 cc's every month. And up until just recently, I've dodged being sick. I mean, stomach bugs, everything.
Got some efficacy, so that's for sure.
And you'll never have to worry about river blindness, so that's always good too.
Oh, and what do you get out of it? Does it hurt your belly when you take it? You get a little bit of stomach cramping from it?
Nothing at all. At all.
Now, what you got to lose? I mean, that's the thing that I always thought about is what you got to lose. You take enough of it, you get real sick to your stomach, so it's kind of self-limiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take 3.
You take enough of it, and they're like, I puked for 3 days. I'm like, well, that's what's going to happen when you take that much. I don't know. What do you think was going to happen?
I take 2 to 3 cc's. It depends on how big my drawback on the little shot deal is, and I'm taking the veterinarian equine one, I guess. That's in the big plastic jug. I bought a bunch of them back during the COVID deal. But me and my wife both, we take 3 cc's. And I have avoided, up until this flu, I hadn't been sick in 3 years really, other than maybe just a sniffle here or there. And it's worked really well. And my preacher tells me I'll never get cancer now because he said Ivermectin will keep you from never getting cancer. So we'll see how that works. So 40 years from now, if I never got cancer, we'll know he was right.
There you go. Well, and my biggest thing is what's the downside to it? So whether it works or not, the first thing I think personally is, okay, what harm are you doing? And it's mostly stomach cramping that you get with ivermectin. And if that's what people are, that's what danger is there. Believe it or not, I've been wrong before. So I like to play off of maybe it's me that's like, for me, I don't take ivermectin, but I don't take it because I had to take it one time for a parasite when I was coming back from Korea, and I can remember I had the runs for like 5 days straight. So, it's like remembering that one brand of pizza you ate that you threw up. You know what I mean? They say ivermectin. I'm like, nah, I'll just take my chances with death on that instead. So,
yeah.
But there's not a lot of downside, and people who want to take it, it's great. And you've got it measured out right. I met somebody that was taking a whole equine dose, and each time they did it, I'm like, Good luck.
No, you're supposed to take a cc for every 100 pounds, and I weigh about 250, 245.
So you just tap it off.
I just 2 to 3. It don't in between ain't gonna hurt me now. But I've never had a problem. The first time I took it, I had COVID, and it was back in 2020 or whenever that stuff went around. And man, I thought I was gonna die. It's when it first came out, and we're 2 months in, and all these people are dying in New York and stuff. And I thought, oh shit! I went out and got some more life insurance. I was counting down the days. And a buddy of mine brought me some Ivermectin that raises show pigs here. Well, the night before I had eaten Taco Bell. So Taco Bell and Ivermectin the first time was not a good mix.
No.
But I took Ivermectin 3 days in a row. But I got over the COVID pretty damn fast. I didn't have none of the chest problems or anything. And I've taken it ever since, and it's done really well for me, and I don't have a problem with it. I got a really weird question for you, and this has to do with the TV show I'm watching.
Uh-oh.
I'm watching 1923,
Ready.
and a young lady's having to take rabies shots. It's pregnant. Can you do that? Take rabies shots in the stomach and be pregnant?
You have to, because if not, the rabies will kill the mom and the baby.
Right. But okay. My question is, should she be taking the rabies shot? Is it gonna abort the fetus though?
It depends on there's actually mechanisms that it would have occur because you're stimulating the immune system at such a high rate. It may see the fetus as being foreign. So our immune system, it's not as smart as we give it credit for. Like, we make it sound like it can go pinpoint one virus out. That's just like they go out there and we Navy SEALs the thing. It's Osama bin Laden. We got 7 guys popping in, and you know what I mean? But our immune system, it's either angry or it's not angry. And on the outside of the baby cells, it has markers that says this is dad, and it has markers that says this is mom. When you alert the immune, normally you have this little protein called a J protein, and it shuts off the natural killer cells, which are Navy cells, from like attacking the fetus, the baby. And so when you make it angry enough by adding so much of an immune system jump to it, it can turn back on and it will attack the baby. And when the baby gets attacked, it'll go after the blood supply first by clotting it off, and then that would cause an atopic, or not an atopic, but it'd cause an abortion of that baby from the inside. It'll cut off the blood supply, and it'd go for it. It would depend on the mom's immune system, though, because there's some people that would be able to do it, and you would make it. And so, but you don't really have a choice because the rabies can move so fast that the baby would come out infected, and depends on the age of the baby. Like if it was close, 8 months, they'd probably take the baby and then they would treat them both separately. But
interesting. I was curious about that. That just had nothing to do with I wanted to ask someone that knew.
And nobody's ever survived rabies, right?
No,
not once they get them. No, but it's also not super common anymore because they can treat it so quickly, even, once you see the first few signs. So
yeah, this one here is the old fashioned 21 shots in the belly button or whatever they used to do. What
do they do now?
Yeah. It's a lot easier now. I don't even remember what it is, but it's not nearly the shots in the bellies that we used to think, but it's now a whole lot easier system. I just don't have to deal with it because we just don't have, even our raccoons leave during the winter, so we don't have anything that carries it. I don't think I've ever seen a possum in my whole life. So
you ain't missing nothing.
It's what I hear. I hear they're the scariest looking thing you never find. So
how do you die from rabies? You can't drink water anymore, right?
You're bad.
Yeah, but the immune system you end up going into febrile shock, and then after that, then it goes in and it actually stops your heart. So there's, you don't drink water, but then you get really hot, and then because of that, your body starts shutting down one at a time.
It's like your
heart goes out at some point. Ooh. So
it's like the fuckers were eating Tide Pods a couple of years ago.
Oh,
it makes them go crazy.
Hey, speaking of Tide Pods, what Methylene Blue?
Yeah,
this is something. It was in laundry detergent, if I'm not mistaken, but evidently it's got some sort of medical purposes.
So if you took a bunch of cyanide today, like you watched in the old World War II movies, right? Pop that pill and you start foaming in seconds.
Yep.
So cyanide poisoning blocks off the way that we can carry oxygen in our blood. Methylene Blue was found to change that and reverse the way that cyanide works. So if you want to reverse cyanide poisoning, we've used Methylene Blue since, 1940, something like that. In recent years, there's a lot of people who lean pretty heavily on it and helping for it to be the ultimate way for us to carry oxygen to where it needs to go and improve the way that your mitochondria, your power plants work. And so it gets a lot of push. But the unfortunate thing with anything that's natural is that it'll work for people that struggle with oxygenating their blood. Those people have kind of like a blue nose, the people that are really kind of poor perfusion. It helps with those people. And those people will see a pretty massive jump in energy level. If you're really heavy into lifting or you're an endurance sport person, you'll see more oxygenation to the system, so you'll do better. And then it always does the same thing. It finds something that's legitimate, and then it blows up into, now it can fix your toenail fungus, and it's going to make it so you live 17 years longer. And so they've taken a select population that I completely believe helps. And then they're like, oh, now it's ubiquitous. It's going to let you have babies. Your eyes are going to be able to see twice as far. You're going to shoot every duck you see just because you won't shake anymore. Like, it just gets too big.
Right.
It has a place, and it's just hard to explain to people. Like, you have to sit down with somebody and say, okay, where's your blood pressure at? Have you had a hard time with like fingers and toes being tingly all the time? Do you have neuropathy? Hey, let's do this, right? But the guy who breathes fine and his only problem is that he can't get motivation to get off the couch, it's not going to change his life a whole lot anyway. So that's methylene blue, and it is used as a medication. So it's not a Tide Pod. We can use it. I've never had Tide Pod used for anything except for making kids quit talking bad to their parents. So that's about the only thing it's good for.
But there is some utility in methylene blue. It's just not, like you said, it's just not going to be something for everybody, and it's not going to be a cure-all for every little thing that you got going wrong for you.
Absolutely. There's some really good usage for it. I mean, it's just, what happens is TikTok gets a hold of something and they're like, okay, it's really great for a few things. And then next thing you know, they're saying, oh, it'll get rid of all your cholesterol. It'll make your dingling 3 inches longer. It'll the whole thing. They just keep pushing. And then now everybody's going to go get it because I said that it'll make your dingling.
Well, I'm telling you, sales just
I just sold it out. I hope there's a big Honker's methylene blue, because you just sold it out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, everybody's buying that shit right there.
I'm gonna buy me a bottle.
There's an old boy right now saying, shit, if it just do me an inch and a half, I'm in. I don't care if I 3.
That's all you have to say. And so there's a real utility to it. And I think that there are people that needs to use it, but the same way that honey has some really great effects, but it doesn't do everything. So you want to be pretty wise on what you go do some research. You'll find it quick. I mean, people can learn. It's amazing how much people can learn really quickly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the reason why there's all these, there's almost a revival of healthcare right now, is because people are like, hey, I can go look on it myself. I can go look up PubMed. I can go look up studies. I mean, I don't have to believe one person, but there's really utility to the methylene blue. It's just not quite as broad, I mean, I get concerned anytime that they start putting a lot of cancer claims on it without studies, just because I don't want anybody to wait with cancer. If you want to treat cancer, that's great, but just don't wait on it. You wait 6 months and your prognosis changes. And that's the only thing but I also tell people about clinics in Mexico that are much more efficient than they are here too. When I say don't wait, it's not just like go to your doctor here either. I'm like, pitter patter, go fight hard right now. So,
I want to switch it up a little bit from dingling growth to the measles. The measles are about 150 miles from here west of here in a little town. And it's basically been in a Mennonite community, and they don't take vaccines. I'm a vaxxer and a non-vaxxer both. I think that there are some great vaccines out there, but I do think that there has to be a correlation with vaccines and in our kids having autism the way we do in Down syndrome. Don't know. I'm not a scientist, but there's definitely something going on. But the measles vaccine has never really been a problem, has it? I mean, they've been taking them since the 40s?
We've used it forever.
So, what if you get the measles? Are the measles a survivable disease if you do get them?
Yeah, I mean, they're having pretty good survival rates. So the measles vaccine, the MMR, so the measles, mumps, and rubella, is one of the most ubiquitous. So everybody's had it, and it's well tolerated. Every now and then, I mean, it's like everything else. When you say it's well tolerated, there's still going to be a percentage of people who just don't respond well to anything, and that's the thing. I don't think that so all of my kids have their vaccines, except for we don't actually do the flu shots. It's not really so much of it's more out of laziness on that, because I've never seen enough effects to it. And then I'm supposed to bring them home and give them to them. We got our COVID shots because we wanted to go to Hawaii. So we got our first 2. so we could go on vacation. It made me super sick. So those ones I'm kind of a little bit more skeptical. Like I have to read more data on it. I'm not saying that they're not there, but it's one of those, I go out and run 10 miles 3 times a week. I'm like COVID. I'm not really COVID's number one target by any mean. And so that one I'm kind of back and forth. But when it comes to your normal shots you give to your kids to go to school, I have my kids use them all. So I'm going to put that out there in front. But when somebody comes to me and says we don't believe in it or we don't want to, there's definitely potential for side effects. 100%. There's nothing in this world that you can do that won't have somebody who someplace out there, there's too many of us, that's going to have a negative side effect to it. There's just not that. And if someone chooses to make that choice, that's kind of on them. People disagree with that with the measles because they're like, well, what about the brand new babies that can't get shots? It's up to you to keep the herd healthy. And I would say that's fantastic. Can I get you to quit heavily drinking, or can I make everybody not smoke too? Like, what do you get? How much spectrum are you going to give me to make sure public health is in place? Right. I mean, it's not happening, but it's safe. My kids would have it. I understand the cultures that don't. If you get the measles, so the way shots work is that it acts like you got sick. And so by doing it, it activates your immune system. Now all of a sudden you got little warriors inside of you to kill the measles next time it comes in because it knows what to do with it. Once you get the measles and you live through it, which the survival rates are huge, well, it's the best shot you've ever had. It's the way that we used to go get chicken pox on purpose so we wouldn't get sick later in life. So, I mean, communicable diseases will always be around. And they say, well, we had this cured and now there's 57 kids or whatever it is that I think the deaths are only like a dozen. Is that what they are?
I don't think there's that much. I think it's just like 3 or 4 people have died.
3 or 4.
It's one community.
At the same time, how many kids died in DUI wrecks in the same area? So it's a hard thing for me to get around because it's just so much news. I'm like, yeah, but we have one of the highest rank for a developed country. We have more moms dying and more infants dying than any place else. So we're not worried about the new moms that aren't getting care, that we lose hundreds and not thousands of babies every year. We're like seriously the worst on having our babies die after birth out of all developed nations. But we don't talk about that because it's just normal. But you have 3 kids die of the measles and it's on every single page you look at. Why don't we start fixing the problems that are bigger?
So the measles is a curable. If you do get measles, it is curable.
Most people live through it. Yeah. It's just super miserable. We have enough stuff that we can keep them alive, but it's super miserable, and you just get through it. It's like you'll get the fevers, you'll get all the little pox every place. Your body will go. There's a chance your kidneys shut down on you, which is really the hardest thing. So they keep you really well hydrated. But it's just a virus. You just have to let it run its course and you treat all the symptoms. But the survival rate's really high, except for in the really young kids and then certain disease states. It's high enough on how fast you die that's the reason why we made a vaccine for it.
Well, I got chicken pox in the summer when I was about 10 years old. Oh, it was miserable 4 or 5 days. Whew. And I think everybody on my Little League baseball team, our whole neighborhood had it at the same time.
Yeah, I got it on purpose. A girl in my class had it. Her mom brought her over, did, plate or whatever, however you introduced chicken pox into the house, and me and my brother got it at the same time.
It was a normal type. That was a normal situation.
Yeah.
We got sent down the street, and then my mom was rubbing mustard on my chest trying to make it go away faster. I'm at about 8 years old in Green River, Wyoming, and she's got this stinky mustard on me trying to make it go away.
I had a buddy of mine. He got chicken pox so bad when he was in high school. He got it when we were about the same time I did. But in high school, he looked like someone threw hot grease on his face.
Wow.
He did it. I mean, it just scarred the shit out of him.
He scratched it.
It was just horrible. All right, go ahead.
We were watching a Home Alone movie with one of my kids, with my kids, and that the reason the kid's home alone is because he has chicken pox and his parents have to work, and my kids didn't even know what chicken pox were.
Yeah.
It's just
but then they had to add another booster to it because we're seeing adults showing up with it. So there's a real thing. It used to be that you'd get chicken pox. You get chicken pox under the age of 18, the survival rate was ridiculously high. Yeah. Like it was like nobody died of it. what they found, then now you have to do 2 boosters. Now they're saying they may need a 3rd. When an adult gets chicken pox, that's where it becomes dangerous. So that's one thing to keep in mind too, is that when you start on vaccines, it's a tool, it's not a cure. And so you still have to watch your chicken pox titers, and that virus titers later in life. And so it's one of those things where I think that you really have to know your stuff. So if somebody told me today I needed to get a booster because it helps later in life with shingles and that, I would say, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we all had to get whooping cough because that came through again. We thought we were done with that by getting our vaccines, and we weren't. And because of that, we became susceptible as a population. So it's all about weighing in pluses, minuses, figuring out where you're at, because here in Utah, we get whooping cough every 2 years to where we'll lose kids on that one because the vaccine just doesn't quite kick in, and then you've got the unvaccinated kids. So you have an adult who was fully vaccinated who will still get it and spread it to a kid that was unvaccinated, and then we have issues.
But I had shingles this year for the first time in a long. I got them years and years ago, never real bad, and I got them again this year, and it made my eyes itch real bad. It was crazy. That's where I got it at.
On your eyeballs?
Yeah, it itched. It would go crazy, and they gave me some medicine. It was gone in a day, but that's where.
Wow.
You can get them anywhere. Okay, I want to talk about Mounjaro.
Perfect. Let's talk about it.
A buddy of mine was taking I don't know if it was a generic Mounjaro. It's one of these pharmacies, compound pharmacy, where they mix up the medicines and do stuff.
Yeah, it's tirzepatide. It's just not made by Eli Lilly, so it's the same medication. It's just not made by Lilly. It's made by a compounder. Yeah.
Okay. He took it, woke up one day, and he had blurry vision. Called his optometrist to go to an optometrist. Optometrist couldn't get him in. Next day, woke up and it was worse. He said, "Hey, I need to get in." Well, you can come see us in 3 days. Well, the next day he woke up and he was blind in his right eye, and he'll never get it back. He went to another optometrist, and they probably couldn't have done nothing for him anyways. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But he went blind from it and did some studying, and there's been a lot of people do that, and a lot of people don't realize that risk, and that's why I want to talk about it.
Oh yeah, there's it's not a huge subsection of the population, but once you've got that peptide in there, what are they going to do? They can't go in there and isolate it once it's all the way through you. So if you're at high risk for it, and then you're going to ask what that means, and that's the problem we're running into, is that the blindness that you're seeing and the vision loss you're seeing is just obscure. It'll pick one person out, I don't know, a million or whatever, and just do it. And that should. I'm coming back. I'm going to keep coming back to say that there's nothing out there that is safe all the time. Like there's always going to be part of the population that it doesn't work. Whether it's, I don't want to get the measles shot because I think that there's a tie to immune system problems when my daughters have kids in 10 years. There's going to be a truth to that to some degree, but also Mounjaro is, right now we're giving it to, it's 1 out of 7 people have taken either semaglutide or tirzepatide out of the two, the Ozempic or the Mounjaro. Adults in the United States. And that's kind of a huge number when you consider how limited data we have on 10 and 15 year data, which is none. We don't actually know what happens at 10 years with these guys. And we've given it to everybody who thinks that, I remember when I was 18, I used to be so fit. It's not just the people that have disease states. And then, you start talking about how much body mass you lose on it too. We're going to see it's assumed that we'll see more fractures. People will break hips and knee and femurs and stuff like that earlier on because we're seeing so much bone loss. And people don't talk about those two things. They don't talk about the blindness. They don't talk about the suicide risk that's really high. And they don't talk about the fact that your fracture risks are so much higher either. They just talk about now you're not fat and so you're going to live forever.
Right. But nobody wants to do it the hard way. Nobody wants to go on a 3-day fast. That's kooky.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't want to go on a 3-day fast, but I'll go run 10 miles instead. Does that count for us?
I think I'd rather do a 10-day fast or a 3-day fast than a 10-mile run. That's torturous.
Yeah, but nobody wants to do well. And then you also want to say that I want to do it. I want to take and it works. They're like, I want to do this, but then I want to be able to still be strong, and I still want to be able to lift. I want to be able to run. I want to play. But I don't actually have to do anything. And I don't know, life doesn't work that way. If you don't put the hard work in something, it doesn't matter what medications you take.
Goes back to what you said earlier. This is a tool. It's not the cure. Like you got to get to the root cause of why you're a lard ass, right? Like you can take these drugs and it'll Band-Aid it and it'll slap a Band-Aid over it and you'll lose a lot of weight. But if you're not willing to make a long-term commitment on changing the way that you got fat in the first place, you're swimming, you're pissing upstream. It's not going to work.
I think it's bigger than that, though. I think RFK and the whole movement on healthy food's a big deal, because you're supposed to make glucon-like peptide, GLP-1. You're supposed to make it. You have more endocrine cells. Endocrine cells make hormones. We have more cells that make hormones in our gut lining than any place else. And we're seeing now total destruction of our endocrine systems. We see girls having their periods way, way younger. We're seeing men stop their testosterone production at ridiculously young ages. We're seeing menopause being finished when it used to get started. We're seeing our hormones all messed up. And then we're like, okay, well, look, we found this one hormone inside of our gut. We'll just take it, patent it, put $1,000 tag, stick it in somebody's butt. We won't even look at why did that cell quit working. Mm-hmm. You start looking at the inside of most people's stomach linings, they are sick. There is chronic inflammation in almost all of our guts. And we did it to be safe with our food supply. Our food supply needed, meat packaging plants. We don't want anybody to get sick. So we put in preservatives, we put in emulsification, we do all this stuff. And now we're like, hey, the meat's great. And we didn't think, wait a minute, we're meat. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what we are. And so now we're seeing all this chronic inflammation, and we're not fixing any of the problem. Instead, we're just keep on isolating one thing that maybe is wrong, and then the big pharma makes money. So it drives me nuts. Between big food and big pharma, they kind of got us coming and going.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So what do you think about RFK? I personally, I'm a fan of a lot of what he says.
I think RFK wants the world to be better and healthy. I don't think he gives a rat's ass about what everybody's telling him from what they have money. I think he just wants to get it done. He wants people to be healthy. Mm-hmm. I think that he's going to push us in a direction that will make us healthier. And I think that, like everybody else, he'll say a few things that'll be off the cuff, and he'll later say, oh, I should have studied more on that. I believe a lot of what he says comes from a good place that will put us in a really good place. And I think that he's pushing us in the right direction. And I think he's going to ruffle a ton of feathers. So I think every time you turn around, there'll be a bad headline. Like it's his fault that the Mennonites decided not to get shots for the kid. Like, somehow he had control of that now. And because he wanted to go for a hike, it makes him a bad guy. Right. That even though but I like most of what he says. I like a lot of what he says. And the reason behind why he says it, I always like. Sometimes I'm like, give him a week. He'll come back out. He'll say the statement over again. It'll be right.
Right.
And like, which one of us doesn't do that? Yeah. Like, we get some information, we get more, we're like, okay, let me rechange it. Not because he came out and said, we're addicted to these weight loss shots and they're terrible for everybody. And I don't think they're terrible for everybody. And then he turns around like 2 weeks later and says, they're not for everybody, but I think what I mean is everybody's using them wrong. So that's the reason why I like RFK, is he always comes back, reads his information and says, okay, this is what I mean. You just took one snippet and ran with it. So
look at the people that don't like him. The people that don't like him are the lobbyists and all the people that are getting paid off of stuff. Here's my thoughts. Cancer is a perfect example of that. A dead patient there's no profit in a healthy patient or a dead patient. The only profit that these people make is if people are sick. So they want to keep you sick as long as you are. So that's why all the people that are doing all the vaccines and all this other stuff are against him. He's not saying that everything, like you said, not everything isn't made for everyone. There's some damn Kamala word salad coming out here. We're
gonna be coconut trees here soon.
Every drug out there has got a use for someone, but they blanket it for everyone because they make profit off of it. Doctors are getting kickbacks. Pharmacists probably get kickbacks somewhere. No offense, Phil, but I'm sure there are. And everybody in the medical industry is getting a kickback, and the person that's losing is the patients. And so
every single time. Yeah, the pharmaceutical, we have PBM, so look on the back of your card, like Caremark and Express Scripts and those guys. They get more kickbacks than anybody does. So they're the ones that say you have to take, you'll go in and your doctor will write for one medication. Your insurance will say, no, you have to take this other one. When they do that, they get 30-40% of the price of that drug by telling you have to take a drug. So there's kickbacks every place. And getting somebody healthy, United States is horrible about getting people healthy.
Yeah.
We're not good about getting them healthy. That's not our job. Our job is to treat the symptoms and keep them running. There are physicians, there are doctors, there's lots of people that are, but I mean the system, not the individuals within it. The system doesn't want you to get better. Doctors, they want you to get better. It's just, there's even protocols. You'll come in and they'll be like, okay, what's your symptoms? They type it in the computer and the computer will kick out saying, here's the protocols. And if you have a good doctor, they have to fight against those protocols to even do what they know they're supposed to do. And then they go into HR because they won't watch the protocols. So
yeah, I think we're seeing a time of change. A lot of that's going to happen. But every town you go to, the fanciest, nicest buildings are oncology wards. And we need oncology wards. But a lot of those people there are getting poisoned for profit.
Do you see that in Montana, that doctor in Montana?
Mm-mm.
He is like the number one reimbursed by Medicare oncologist. They figure like 60% of all of these patients never had cancer. He would just give them small doses of chemo to keep them sick. It's an insane story.
Wow.
He's the only oncologist within, I don't know, like 100 miles or whatever. So he billed more than anybody else. They ended up finding, like, one guy had cancer, I think it was for like 16 years. And then he quit going to him, and they couldn't find that he ever had signs of cancer at all.
I did read that. If you watch,
everybody's got cancer that comes to him.
Yeah, the show The Resident that's on Netflix, I liked it because it showed the good of the hospital and it showed the bad of the hospital, the administrative side. It showed both sides to it. And one of their episodes, a couple of them, was a lady that had a renowned cancer research center in Atlanta, supposedly, and this is fake stuff, but it's based on a true story somewhere. And she had people in there the same way. They didn't have cancer, but they diagnosed it with this, and they paid them all this money, and they had Medicaid Plus or whatever insurance was, and was getting rich, poisoning people with shit that wasn't even nothing wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's crazy. Our rates aren't. I'm with you, and I think that's why I kind of like the idea. People are freaking out that we've got Doge looking at them all. I'm like, why are we afraid of looking? Like, I get audited by anybody. You want to come look at mine? Like, come look at whatever you want in my life. I'm fine. Why are we afraid of someone looking at it and say, what are we finding here? I think it's great to have oversight in those situations. There's too much money going out. So you should have somebody saying, okay, you're spending 10 grand a month on this chemo. What is it? How come it costs us this much? Just have a second doctor say, can we see the charts? All that stuff should be like, in seconds, they should be having that kind of stuff. So
who would have thought 70 years ago that when you had a health problem, the main person that was going to make a choice on your healthy was going to be an insurance company?
So
and they have these levels. Have you ever called these guys? It's crazy. They build pillars so they don't even talk to each other. They'll have one person's job it is to keep prices down, because if not, they won't stay open. And they'll be talking to another person who talks to the patient, and so they don't even talk. They don't even cross talk. They've made it so the insurance company's set up so you can't get through it. You can't get what you need when you need it. And then they also set up, then they'll call you like 12 times a day. Cause you know how have you ever had your insurance call up and say, hey, we'll send a nurse out to you, or a nurse practitioner out to you, and we'll have them do at-home check. Have you heard those phone calls?
No.
So they'll call you up, and it's because if you're on the Affordable Care Act on Obamacare, if they have somebody come out and add diagnoses. So let's say they come out and see me and they decide that, oh, look, Phil's got blood pressure issue because I don't know why they were out there. I was pissed off at my kids, right? Now they can charge at a higher rate, because everything's subsidized, right? So, I mean, I pay a crap ton for my insurance, but the more diagnosis you have, the more that the affordable care insurances get paid. So if you have, I don't know, Aetna, and Aetna looks at it and says, hey, this guy's 50 and he's got no diagnosis, so let's send out a nurse practitioner. If she can put 3 diagnoses, we'll get an extra $15, $20 a month and extra money from the government to do it. So they call me all the time, and I'm like, I already know what the game is. You're going to come out and give me 3 diagnoses, which makes me more complex, and you'll get paid better.
Right.
They have money for that.
Right.
But they don't have money when, like, you're like, hey, my kid's got croup. I'd like him to see a pediatrician. They're like, well, first you have to get this done, and then you have to line up. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a nuts system that we're in right now. Everything is money driven, like all of it.
Where did it go offline? Because, like, wasn't insurance originally started to protect the patient from price gouging from doctors?
It's a combination of things. This is where you're going to have like arguments back and forth with people. So what happened is we were all private, and then we started Medicare, and Medicare was just for the elderly, and it was great, right? And then someplace along the line, the insurance companies got a little greedy, and so they decided that they were going to start working what's called HMOs, and they're going to get public. So instead of having us run our own healthcare system, we were going to pay the private system to do a lot of it. So you'd have your Kaiser Permanentes and these guys getting funded to do like part of Medicaid. Well, then that became such big business, and the oversight was so poor and so the federal government started paying for so much of the health care. And now you got this problem because you have this limited oversight, but you have a private company. And I'm not a socialized medicine guy, but I also don't believe in big business either. If they're the same, like to me, they're both, they're going to hurt you. But because of that, now most of our healthcare, almost all at 50, it was 10 years ago, it was like 55% of all healthcare was already being covered by the federal government. So the private industries that are in there just take from the federal government, and their job is to make money, and the federal government just hands them the money. And it quit being about, I am a good insurance, I save money for all the little businesses that buy, and it became of, well, we're just going to, and then it got worse with Obamacare. And then now at this point, everybody's like, let's go socialized. But if we go socialized, we're going to look like the UK and talk to anybody from the UK, and they hate it. It's terrible in the UK. It's free, but if you hurt your back today, you're 2 years out from getting an MRI.
Wow.
I don't remember as a kid. I'm 57, so I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 68. I don't ever remember as a kid my parents having to worry about selling a kidney to take us to the doctor.
Right.
Never.
The doctor used to have prices that your parents would afford, or they wouldn't take them.
Yeah. And
now they say, well, I charge your insurance. So the pricing has nothing to do. There's no service industry to it. Like when you bought the tires for your truck, they gave you options. Mm-hmm. You got to choose because you had to pay. Well, now you just have to go where they say, and how much gets paid is already said by somebody else. It's everybody to be driving with the same exact tires, or you get the premium plan and then you can get whatever tires you want, but then it costs more to you on a monthly basis. So when it quit being that patients knew what it costs, and the end person, like whether it's a pharmacist or a doctor, knew that, like if you're like, well, Joe down the street doesn't pay real well, Joe, you can't come here anymore. You don't pay me well enough. They can't even do that. I mean, pharmacy claims, on one claim, you'll make $8,000 profit. But then the next 25, 40, 50 claims during a month, you'll lose $50 to $80 on different ones. You just take what they give you.
Right.
And it's just this obscure thing. If you knew your prescription was $120, you would say, it's not worth $120 to me. I'll find something that's worth $60. But as soon as it moved to insurances, like, well, my insurance covers it, so it's fine. We lost all control.
I mean, what's the answer moving forward here? Because I mean, you can't, like you said, you don't want to go full blown socialized medicine, but how hard would it be to go back to the private industry like we had?
I think if oversight was really there. So Trump's first term, one thing he wanted was complete clarity, and it freaked out everybody. He wanted everything to be clear. He wanted your hospital to say, okay, this, you really paid $6,000 and here's what it really cost for these things, right?
Yeah.
And then they wanted the insurance company to say, okay, we received $600 is just processing your fees. He wanted complete clarity, especially on drugs. I think if we had clarity, that they would be held responsible. Right now, if you went in and you broke your clavicle today, right? You could kind of look at it, but you'd have no clue who got what or why. Mm-hmm. They give you an EOB, an explanation of benefits. You can look like, oh, look, it looks like they charged me this much for that and that much for this. But really, you go in there and they're like, well, this is going to, because my kid just broke his clavicle. I walked through the door and we have insurance, but it's got a $13,000 deductible. They're like, it'll be $7,000 walking through the door to get it fixed, right? You know what I did? I paid the $7,000 because they'd already started on him. Yeah. Like, they didn't give me, so we paid the $7,000. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, what did I pay $7,000? Like, what if you broke down? What if you knew everything else? And what if there was a way for you to put in this guy's price gouging me in the medical system? What if there was a system in place? I think people, if they knew what they were paying and why they were paying it, and you knew that there was a kickback to a doctor, you knew there was the hospital has the only one that has this contract, and the insurance company doesn't change with anybody else because they can give them a better deal in Alaska. So there's a hospital system here that they stay open here because the Alaska store makes more money and they make so much money in Alaska. So it's all, if we knew all of that stuff, I think it would self-right in about 10 years.
Right.
Well, hopefully
we go socialized and we're screwed, but I think it's about information. I'm a huge fan of information. You shouldn't, if you're using public funds, whatever you use public funds on, we get to know. Yeah. If you want to use your dollar out of your pocket, it's nobody's business. As soon as my taxpayer or yours, even if it's a fraction of a cent, everything should be out there. We should know where every dollar is going.
I agree 100%. It's like the Ukraine deal. If you want to send our government money, we should know where it's all going. If you want to write them a personal check, that's your business right there. All right, real
Right.
quick.
I can remember when we had our kid looking at that itemized bill at the end of it, and it's like $12 for a Tylenol 3, and you're like, what?
Right. And then they fight back, and then you get another one. By the time you're done, you're like, just I don't care.
Yeah,
Fine.
pay it. It's 12
That's crazy. Okay, I want to talk to you about COVID deaths real quick. We don't have COVID deaths no more. I mean, none at all. There's no quarantine. If you got COVID, a buddy of mine's got COVID. He was going to have surgery, got sick, got tested. You know, Steve's got COVID.
Yeah.
He's got COVID now. I wouldn't be worried about being around him. I'd rather be around someone with COVID than the stomach bug because I can't stand to throw up. But you
remember when COVID came in and there was a strain that was coming from California and then the New York strain, and the California strain was the first one that hit. And everybody freaked out. We locked down California, and that one actually came from the Chinese side. It was over there. I think it was a Chinese strain. And then the one that came into New York, that's the one that they had over in Italy that killed like everybody in Italy, because everybody in Italy is like 109 years old. I've got a conspiracy theory that if we would have let the Californian strain go through, which was not killing people, and we let it just run the country, go right through, everybody catches it, I bet you we'd have the exact same numbers as we do with the shots and everything we did.
Oh,
because that one was not killing anybody. So what happens is COVID's a virus, each virus, and the virus mutates. And that's the reason why they had all these variants. Remember how they were saying there was this variant and that variant? The New York variant came over from the Europe side, and it was super deadly in comparison. The California variant was going through, and people were sick and losing their sense of smell and stuff like that. But it was kind of going all right. Then we locked it down. And then when it came back around, the most virulent, the ones that's most dangerous, came back through. And here we sit 5 years out, and we slowed it down a little bit. We still don't have one extra ventilator than we did before. Remember when ventilators were the thing? Like if we could throw them all on ventilators, we could save them. We got no extra ventilators. We got no extra rooms. We don't have any extra viral protection. We spent ourselves into oblivion. And if it came back through, we are no better off today than we were 5 years ago.
No,
we're just as bad. What did we do with all that money? What if we would have just built rooms to save people and not done all the other garbage that we did?
The ventilators wasn't it the combination of the
remdesivir
and the ventilators, which they think killed a lot of people?
Yeah. And then also, like, you look at it now and all the medications they use, like after the first shot, now they're not so sure that thing that we spent, what did we spend on it? It's almost $100 billion on that one medication all by itself. I just lost its name. Crud. It's the one I had on my shelf all the time. Now they're saying that if you've had the shots, it doesn't help at all. And so it's kind of one of those things. We didn't know what we were doing, and everybody was so sure. You ever been on a hike with somebody who's so sure where they're going, but they've never been on the hike before, and you still get lost? I mean, I swear that's what this feels like, you know?
Well, now what's this medicine they're pushing now? The Paxlovid or
Paxlovid. The Paxlovid, that's the one. The Paxlovid is the one that and it's like $700, and we originally paid for it to get pushed through, and then the United States bought some crazy number of doses. We spent an insane amount of money on it, and now they're saying Paxlovid, if you've been previously inoculated or had your vaccine, Paxlovid efficacy is really low. And so now, but they still keep writing for it because we don't have something else. So it's very interesting. The wording on that's super interesting.
Didn't they just pass a law that you can't have drug commercials on TV no more?
I hope.
I don't think they've got.
I think they have. I think there's
one in that they want to stop to do that, but I don't think it's passed. I think it's just made through like one round.
I want to go back to seeing beer commercials and shit instead of hard dick medicines and fucking weight loss medicines.
It's everywhere. That's all it is.
So you watch a game, you watch TV, and that's the only commercials on or medications.
Drug medicines.
That's it.
100%, and it always tells you who's making money. Yeah, they'll buy every ad on the Super Bowl and not look twice, and then scream that they're not overcharging for medications.
I knew that people are making money. There's a soda out right now that's this probiotic soda, bubbly or bubble or some shit. That is Poppy, and they had a Super Bowl commercial. They paid
making a lot of money,
millions and millions and millions of dollars. Well, it come out now that soda is a probiotic, but it's got 3 times the sugars that a Coca-Cola has in it. So it's not
and it's got chicory root, so it'll give you the runs, and so like it's a prebiotic, but you can also get a prebiotic by I don't know, eating an apple and get more out of it anyway. You know what I mean? Like half an apple.
But
That sounds good, doesn't it, Andy?
that
An
sounds
apple right
so boring. Oh yeah.
I drank
now. 2.5 days into a fast, everything starts sounding good.
And I've got black coffee over there, and I just stuck a nicotine pouch in, so things are about to get really squirrely over here.
I drank one of those poppies, or tasted one. It was the grape one.
Yeah.
Because Welch's used to make this thing years ago called sparkling grape soda, and it was really good.
Yeah.
They don't make it anymore. And I thought, maybe that's going to taste like Welch's. I took about 2 drinks and threw the shit out. But
yeah,
that's what well, it's good for me. It's probiotic. Well, it's not good for you.
Speaking of things that we're finding out can be good for you is nicotine. I was never a dipper, never a smoker. I got started on nicotine pouches a couple years ago. They're fun. Give you a little head tingle, especially when you hadn't eaten anything in 2 days. But we're also finding out now that nicotine is a neuroprotectant. It's good for your brain.
it is.
As long
At
as
lower
the deliveries,
doses, it's a neuroprotectant. At higher doses, it breaks down nerves.
So
it's a dose related.
These are 3 milligrams, and I do 2 a day. So I do 6 milligrams of nicotine a day.
You're golden. You're fine.
Right.
But your case, if you, let's say now you liked it, and so instead of a little buzz and you do it twice a day, you don't have that. Now let's say you're taking it every 2 hours, every 4 hours, every whatever it is, and it keeps building.
Yeah.
A subsection that you're not doing that, but you're going to find a buddy who started when you did, who's now taking 8 or 10 a day, right? That guy is gone from having it. You've taken everything that was good out of it, and you moved to something that's bad. And so it's a tool. Nicotine is a tool. When the RFK supposedly popped one in the middle of a Senate hearing, I'm like, there's brilliance to that because his brain is going to work better. He's going to get that, but it's there. If we start seeing him pop one every hour, I'm like, okay, RFK, you went too far. Right. And so if you have the information is that by the 4th or 5th dose, your brain has become accustomed to nicotine. So with you're detoxing on a daily basis. So when you put in, you'll get 45 minutes to an hour of clarity out of it. By the 3-hour mark, your brain will say, hey, where'd that go? I'd like another one now. By the 6-hour mark, it says, no, I really want one. By the 12-hour mark, it's going to be like, well, I don't remember taking it. And then you'll take another one. So but you're also not eating, you got your water fast going on right now. So you've got good self-control.
Right.
Without self-control, nicotine, no matter what it is, it can end up, if you have people starting saying, well, I just use it right before, whatever, you'll have a large section of people who become dependent upon it. And though nicotine by itself doesn't have any problems, there's not been one way where we become dependent on a substance like that, where Philip Morris, who makes most of that stuff, hasn't found a way to make money off of you another way, which then ends up being really negative. So what can be good can turn into bad. My family, we had so many smokers in there. And so I kind of have a worry in general that my nicotine tolerance for my brain saying, okay, just do 1 twice a day. I don't think I could do it.
Right.
So I think I would take more personally. I think that mine would say, this is cool. Let's take more and more. And so it's all about whether or not you really think you can stay away from it or not. Because, they've had patches and gums forever. Like you could have done this forever. But it was kind of a crazy number with gum. There was a time, early 2000s, where all the kids in college were using the gum to help them study. And of those, there was almost like a 40% translation to starting to smoking or using chew. So I'll be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, see,
maybe they just stay on the Zyn forever. I don't know.
I never smoked. I mean, I can't say that I've never smoked. I've smoked cigarettes in college and stuff like that. Never was a habitual smoker. Dipped once in high school at a dance, and they had the strobe lights going off, and I puked everywhere. Made me sick, so I stayed away from snuff. And then for whatever reason, I just got on these, and like I said, I give myself 2 a day, and that's all I get. And I feel better. But like I do it before a podcast.
But you can look at people around you like, okay, this guy and this guy and this girl, they all could be fine. But these 4, they better stay away from it because they become addicted to anything they look at. Right. I mean, you can do it. I can do it. And it's not, I don't think we should force anything. But if somebody asks me, I'm like, well, what are your chances of becoming dependent upon it? If you become dependent on something like that, it'll run your life for you. But if you're somebody that's like, no, I can be in the middle of, like, yours is a great example. I can be in the middle of like the longest fast, and I can walk right past a fresh cinnamon roll, and I can just keep walking.
Yeah.
Whereas I know me.
Yeah.
at where you're at, nobody better bring food in the room because I don't care what it is. I'm eating it. A Slim Jim from 1978 is probably going down right now if I was you. So it just depends on who you are. So I would be very wise on saying, can I really stay away from things? Dependency will always lead to something that's worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, but some people are just, they got that self-control and they just don't really care. I mean, when I get like opiates for surgeries, we throw them out. They just make me sick. I don't like them. And I've always felt lucky because as a pharmacist, last thing you want is to be able to like that stuff.
Right.
And I don't like them.
Right.
So
I saw a honey bun yesterday at my house and I was like, oh, you are going down on Thursday. And I try to stay away from sweets when I can, but I saw that honey bun. I'm like, your ass is mine come Thursday.
I got
yeah. So you don't want 6 boxes. You don't want to say I can have 2 honey buns a day because that'll go to 4 and then 6. Next thing you know, all you're eating is honey buns. So see, we all know our places, right?
Yeah. I've got a question for you from my wife. Just texted me.
Uh-oh.
She said, ask Phil about the parasites living in everyone's bodies, what symptoms they cause, and what cleanses we should be doing. I have no idea what parasites she's talking about. So
in the world, the number of people that have parasites is crazy high. It's like 1 out of 10, and they have all sorts of worms, the nematodes that are out there. In the United States, when I looked it up, it's like 0.07% of people inside the United States have parasites. But if you've drank out of a hose, or if you've been out hiking and you've drank from water sources, you have a chance of having different worms, different parasites grow within you. And because of that, we're seeing people. I have a friend, and she drank out of a hose. She ended up having a parasite. Everybody thought that she had an eating disorder the whole time she was growing up because she was so skinny, and she'd always have to run to the bathroom because and then they said she has IBS, and then she treated IBS forever. In the end, she had a parasite. So there is a possibility of it. And the reason why I say it this way is that the number is really low, but it doesn't mean zero. I mean, 0.07% is a kind of a big number inside the United States. That's a lot of people. It sounds little, but that's a lot of people.
3 million people.
And yeah. So now you're like, okay, that's enough people to do it. Now, medication wise, it's funny because outside of the United States, you can just walk up and say, they'll give you all sorts of stuff, antiparasitics. Like I was sitting in Mexico and like, we make such a big deal of it because on TikTok, I can't say if you have parasites, use this because and both TikTok and Instagram will censor my stuff because they don't want people thinking it for some reason. It's one of the no things you're not supposed to talk about. Take a step over the border, they'll just sell you it. They don't care. But wormwood is one of my favorite for parasites. I really do like wormwood and dandelion. Those are 2 things I do really like.
We have them in our house.
Instead of doing cleanses, I think you push your symptoms that you have with it. Glutathione's another one I really like because I think that most people really what they worry about is they had a parasite and now it did damage in their liver. And glutathione, which you can take orally and it works really good, helps protect that liver. So I would start with those ones for the herbal. And if you really want to get rid of it, I just hop over to Mexico, have a nice sunny day, and buy the stuff that's from their pharmacy. It's the same, and they'll just say, just go tell them you have it. They all have to take it. So it's just like over the counter there, and you can clear them out. But I guarantee that one's going to mess you up. Most of the cleanses, they'll lean real heavily. They'll also put some stuff so you actually have like all the poop come out of you, like senna. And I don't think that's as necessary as they think it is. So most of the time it's wormwood, dandelion, and then glutathione.
What's the Mexican drug that they give you?
Oh, there's like 5 or 6. They have like all of them. I could come up with them, but they have a ton of them down there. I'd have to go back and look. It's been a while since I did my protocol on nematodes. So I'm sorry, I actually don't know the names of them right now. It's been so long since I've looked at them because the only time we see them here is when the Mormon missionaries come back. They come back with all sorts of parasites, and so that's the only time we ever see them is when they come back with their parasites from their missions. But
in Mexico, it's a common deal to take these antiparasitic.
Oh, they all have it. Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's where we all learn. It doesn't matter where it's at in the world. The missionaries come in from Papua New Guinea. They just go over the counter, says I got diarrhea, and they'll give them stuff to kill it. Like every place else, they just kill it because there's so many of them. It's just the United States because we boast that we have such clean water. I guess unless you live in Flint, Michigan, and then you don't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
right. Okay, my last question.
Now they're going to start. You see that they're starting to let more of the wastewater go back into our drinking water too, which isn't a bad thing, but it makes me a little more concerned how much. So the runoff water now can come back through. So we're really dependent upon making sure that the water stays clean. Which, hey, God bless all of the guys that work in that industry because they don't get paid well and they have a lot of responsibility on their backs. So
I saw where in Mexico, one of their they're sending all their waste now into the Rio Grande River from somewhere to tributary into it, poisoning it.
Oh yeah, that sounds right.
I hadn't seen that. Last question, because I know you got to get out of here. Testosterone, we mentioned it earlier. It is plummeting earlier than it ever has. Our teenagers have low signs of testosterone. Is that all the food that we're ingesting? Part of it?
Absolutely. So there, BPAs are the easiest one. So BPAs are found in almost all your plastics, and it acts a lot like an estrogen, and it's in like everything. And those microplastics we all have. So BPAs act like an estrogen, and because of that, you get a feedback loop that shuts off your testosterone earlier. So then, if we were to cut open your testicle today, we would find microplastics.
Wow.
Those microplastics would be leaking BPAs in them. It's just one of many things. So, and then you start considering that there's like 12 different types of preservatives, all been linked to higher levels of estrogen and blocking testosterone. And so we're seeing it, and you're like, okay, well, does it really exist? Well, every year girls get their periods about 2 months earlier than the generation before them each time they do it, right? It's young now.
Yeah.
We're seeing that same thing. So in men, what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot more of the estrogenic effects. So you're getting man boobs at 42 instead of 62. You're seeing these estrogenic effects. And when you have estrogenic effects, then it shuts off testosterone production. So we see it really young. And so the men that work out all of the time and really push it all the time, they get to hold it off a little bit longer. But the testosterone most certainly is being affected by the food we eat, by the plastics that we have. And to fix it is like insanely hard. You start thinking about all the places you can get toxicities from. And we worry about it more with women because women's are easier to see. In men, you're like, well, he's just doesn't exercise. But really, the number of men, everybody comes to me after their first test for testosterone, like my testosterone was insanely low. I can't believe it. And it's because every man's testosterone is really low right now. Like it's hard to find men that aren't on testosterone treatment whose levels aren't way below where they're supposed to be.
But there's such a wide variance of what normal is. Like, isn't it like 400 to 1,000 is considered normal? If you fall in between 400 and 1,000, you're normal.
Well, and then you go to a doctor who wants to sell you testosterone. They're like, oh, you're way low. You're at 800. And you're like, doc, I feel great.
Right.
That's one thing I tell everybody. So I've had mine tested. So I'm 50 this year. I've had mine tested multiple times, and they tell me that I'm low, and I tell them that I feel fine. And I don't want to be 18. I don't want to be rubbed against everything that walks by. Like I'm good, and they say, well, we should probably put you on something. And I think it's, well, if I feel good and I still can exercise, why would I do it? I've seen other guys that sit at 1,200 and they have no drive. They've got mental clarity issues. They try to go to the gym. Nothing gets happened. They have to push it higher. So there's a huge difference between those.
I've never tested my testosterone. I'd like to know what levels I'm at just for shits and giggles. But I mean, if you're over the age of 50 and you are not feeling good, low energy, mental clarity issues, erectile dysfunction or whatever it is, like testosterone is a valuable tool in making you feel good.
Don't you think we live too long too, though? Like, I mean, I think everybody has to be on it because you used to be dead at 54.
Right.
So like our bodies say, okay, your breeding years for a man go from, well, heck, I'm in Utah and where you guys are sitting, we're going to give them 14. We'll give them, I mean, there's, boys are getting people pregnant. 14, but by the time you hit about 45, it'd be great if you weren't fathering children anymore, right? That's originally what society said. Well, now we live so long that we have to take what nature had in first place and we got to push it out further. And testosterone is going to be that thing that does it under the right circumstance with the right dose. However, when you put the wrong dose out there, you ever seen what happens to those guys that get, like, they don't even know that they're jerks all the time. They just, makes them ornery. They fight with everybody. They're moody. Right. Like it's insane too. And they're like, no, my testosterone level seems fine. You're like, you're not fine. So again, I'm pushing back on the idea that everything's has to do with the dose. It's a tool, but yeah, by 50, you're going to need something if you want to have your activity level, but it probably doesn't need to be 6 pellets. Like, guys that are doing the pellets, like, as soon as I hear the pellet, you know how much money they make off of those pellets? Insane. It's insane. Like once you go there, if they can see they can put a pellet in you, they're going to put a pellet in you. And for me, I think that that's a real dangerous path, because then you shut off your own endocrine system, and now you have to put pellets in forever.
See, that's the one drawback to me, is I don't want to be dependent on anything for the rest of my life at 37 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could do like minor doses and it wouldn't change anything, and we can put you on HCG, which will then set it off. So, oh, I got an extra 15 minutes. We're good.
Cool.
So, we're good for a minute. So you can do things so you can keep your natural production. And everybody's like, oh, as soon as you go out on testosterone, you're going to shrivel and never produce your own. That's just if you overdo it. If you did low levels, balanced it out with some HCG and some other stuff, you can stop it whenever you want. If you're like, okay, look, I'm ready to be old and flabby, I don't care. It's good. You can do that. What the unfortunate thing is, what we usually find is that there are doctors who keep pushing that dose, and then I get 40-year-old guys who thinks it's time to start being in muscle shows, and they're on the testosterone. And I think, okay, you can do that, and you're choosing to use that tool, but you're choosing what will happen to you in 10, 15 years too.
Right.
So there's like with all the peptides that are out there, like they all make sense to me, but I'm like you, like I'm really slow to adapt anything, because I always worry about what happens in 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you. I'm really slow, but I also have other people who've had it change their lives with testosterone. So I'm 100%, I totally.
And I've always kind of got this moderation mentality towards anything that I do. So it's like, yeah. I would not go full bore with the testosterone. You know what I mean? I just wouldn't do it. I would do what got me to the level that I optimized at, and then I'd kind of shut her down there. Same with the nicotine that I do.
Yeah. So when you use what God gave us, medications, hormones, peptides, ivermectin, which can kill parasites too, yeah. Just so his wife knows, like that's a great way to kill them is ivermectin. If she's worried about it, have her just do ivermectin 3 times a week. That's a great way to go. But all of these things, they're tools that God have given us, and we need to be smart enough to use them. And we need to quit relying on, one individual with a white coat. You need to start looking at it and say, is this right for me? I got guys that are ordering peptides from China, and they're on Kispeptin, and they're on BP 157, and they're on TB 500. And I know what all these are, and I think to myself, okay, but do you know what happens when you take them for 10 years? Are you willing to take your chances on cancer early? Are you going to miss out on your grandkids' years? Because we don't actually know. And what is it you're treating? And some guys will be like, yeah, I felt like garbage. I couldn't get off the couch. I was suicidal. This was good for me. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then you'll talk to other people who are like, well, I saw these other guys getting gains in the gym, and so I decided I needed to be on all of these, on the Samoralin. And I think that's such a weird thing for me to think of, because be grateful for what you got. Mm-hmm. It could get worse. Every medication I have, I can tell you side effects of every medication that I have. So I'd be careful with that. But I do like testosterone in men, especially men with mental health disorders. I think a lot of the reason why suicide rates are so high in men is because our testosterone drops and we pretend like nothing's wrong.
Right.
Well, I'm in good shape then, because I don't want to kill myself.
Well, and if you couple the lack of testosterone, the lack of sunlight that we're getting, these are all, we've gotten away from kind of nature's remedy to a lot of issues.
Well, you guys, what you do for a living, you take guys out, you hunt, right?
Yeah.
You guys do a lot of that. Like that's what you do. How many men don't have any of that anymore? How many men go sit in a cubicle, come home to their stressful life, and they don't have that moment where they're laughing because somebody ate too much meat in the morning and now the duck blind smells awful because they farted. Like that moment is so essential in men. Like we're just a weird group. Like your buddy, when you see him, you still wrestle with him. Men get more oxytocin release from that wrestling match with their buddy than they do from a hug. Like that's why we wrestle with each other. Right. And so we've missed out on, I was thinking yesterday, like how masculinity was so good for mental health. And so, there's this new thing out there called maxing with all the kids, Generation Alpha, and they smell. Those kids have like they go out and get their cologne, and they're like always trying to like do jaw things to get that tight jaw and all that stuff. I thought, how cool was it that I grew up in a time where we were having a firecracker wars with each other, where you're trying to hit each other with them and waiting long enough. Like I know we shouldn't blow up our fingers, but there's nothing like a Roman candle war to get your heart going, you know. and so I look at it and I think, there's parts of masculinity and femininity that was so good for mental health in general. And so how often are we now not trying to treat the main problem, which is you just need to go out, have an adventure with your friends. That's what you need to do. And instead we're looking for a chemical way to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Outside dodgeball. That's the answer. Okay.
Oh, butt ball. Did you guys used to play that one where you'd have to bounce it off the wall, and if you missed it, you had to go stand up against the wall, and they got to huck the ball as hard to drac the ball at you. Like
wall balls.
I'd still play that. We should start that one as a league.
I'm telling you, these kids today,
missing out on everything.
The problem is the guys running the world are the people that got their ass beat at dodgeball.
And they want to get rid of it.
Yep. Okay.
It's okay. I took a couple of good shots to the head. I got back up. That taught me a good lesson when you take a good one to the head and you don't remember for about 10 minutes. Next time you move.
Here's my next question from the peanut gallery. They want to know about castor oil packs and putting it in your belly button.
Isn't that cool?
I've never heard of this. So me and you are on the same page. And he knows though. What is this now?
So they take these packs, they put it right on the belly area with the castor oil, and it's supposed to draw out so you'll look skinnier in the next morning. Okay, so you're supposed to put them on, and so they blew it off because anytime a TikTok trend goes off, they're like, oh, it doesn't work, and then they look at it like, holy cow, it might actually emulsify some of the fat. So when you're cooking a good gravy, you got that fat that's floating in there. You throw in a little bit of cornstarch. It's a cheat, but mostly if you really do it, you can make that gravy go from being this chunks of fat to staying inside emulsified. So castor oil takes that chunky fat and it kind of smooths it out and underneath the skin, because we absorb just enough to where it starts to change the way that the fat molecules work inside the adipose tissue. And when you do that, it allows your body to displace it back to where it should be. So instead of when you've got chunky fat, it kind of comes and clogs all together, and smooth fat moves back, because we should have a little layer of fat all over us. I know it's bad news. Everybody thinks we're supposed to have no fat, but the truth is fat's fantastic for us. We all should have a little to pinch. And when you do it, it smooths that out, so it emulsifies it naturally. And because of that, you'll see that fat distributes through the intradermal layer, or the layer underneath the skin. Again, though, this is one of those things where it works. Like the girls that show it on TikTok, they got I don't know, 1.5 pounds too much on them, and it works out great, right? You throw it on a 450-pound person, they're not going to see those effects. It has its place. And the nice thing, it's another one of those, I'm like, who cares? Why does everybody have to have such an opinion about this? I'm like, if you want to throw castor oil on your belly, I don't care at all, period.
Right.
Because the only thing you can get is something good out of it. But that's the way it's supposed to work. And there is some studies that show that for a limited time, it kind of shrinks some of that clumpier fat, so it smooths out, it kind of flattens the top out.
One of your friends asked this. It wasn't your mom this time. It was a mutual friend, though. This lady did it and said it helped her with her constipation also, but wanted to know if it worked. So that would be because that fat, we moved it from being that chunky fat that sat right there to that smooth fat. Once it moved to that smooth fat, then the body says, okay, let's get rid of some of this. So then they move some of that, and then it's just like you grease the track a little bit. And so and when they put it on there, that's why you've done it, is you just changed. So castor oil can cross over the skin and get inside. And when it does it grabs onto that fat, and then that really chunky, because we have tallow looking fat, and then we have some that looks like warm bacon grease, like it's smooth, right? We have both types. It makes that really chunky tallow looking fat look more smooth. And then our body says, okay, let's move these muscles out. Let's put it into the liver. The liver is going to kick it back out into the gut, and the gut's going to take that, and we're not going to be constipated anymore. It probably means that she's got some inflammation issues in her gut, though, if that did it. So I would in that case say I would get pretty aggressive with probiotics and get the bugs that live inside of us are just as important as the crops we grow on our fields. If you let a field go, you're going to get tumbleweeds and briars. Right. You have to constantly be working at that field to make sure you get your alfalfa. So that's crazy. My dad growing up said his grandmother used to give him castor oil for everything. Castor oil.
Yeah. You ever drank it?
Yeah, castor oil and an enema. He said,
they do. I remember being constipated and getting castor oil, and then I decided I just wouldn't poop. It would be easier than castor oil. It was out of the two. I was choosing that one.
He said you'd sprain.
That's the way it works on the belly. So it makes that fat, so your body can disperse it, and then where it disperses it is a lot of times through the liver and then out to the gut. So.
But man, we appreciate
very
you being
good.
on here. It's been really good.
Thank
Love
you for
to
getting
have
that
you.
extra 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I
that.
feel bad that I can't come up with all the Mexican parasitic drugs, so I'll have to send them to you. Like I completely blanked. I haven't looked at them for so long that my brain just went blank on it. And I'm not even fasting, so
It's not a problem.
We'd love to have you on again in about 6 months and do this. This is great.
Always love it.
Man, it's very knowledgeable. You do a great job.
Always.
well, there'll be a lot to talk about too. Trump's got some changes coming up. I'd love to see happen. So
Yeah, and I want to get your take on switching to beef tallow too. So we'll do.
I like beef tallow.
We'll do.
I think it just depends on your genetics. I like beef tallow. I like it a whole lot better to do seed oils.
Yeah, but we'll get you back
Seed
on.
oils are the devil.
We'll get you back on, and we'll dive in, and maybe I won't be on a fast then, and maybe I'll be a little bit more
Well, heck,
clear.
maybe I should come your direction. We'll do it live one of these times.
Yeah,
We'd love that.
That'd be awesome. Anytime. We'd love to have you out here.
Yeah, let me know. I'll jump on a plane next time. We'll come see you.
What I'm going to do also too is advertise it before and let a lot of people have questions that they want to ask, and we can ask
think
some of
that's
these
the
questions.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that. I'd love that. That's the best part. I love crowd work. That's like my favorite thing when you get to be just a pharmacist.
Yeah, we'll do that next time. We'll get some crowdsourcing some questions. Well, listen, stay safe out there. Keep putting out the great content. It saves me when I'm in a pinch with sick kiddos. So we love having you on, and be safe.
Yeah, hey, good luck with all that win. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
God bless you, bud.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great podcast. I love having him on.
I love it.
Very what's the word I'm looking for?
Informative.
Informative. Maybe I need to take some testosterone.
I would if I were you. I would at least go get my levels
You and a
checked.
little brother?
No, I would go get. You can't. Mom's tubes are tied. Sorry, that's a HIPAA violation. I would definitely.
Of all the things we talk about, that's going to get us.
If I were you, the first thing that I would do is I would go get my levels looked at. Odds are you're probably going to be low just because of your age. And then I would start on a small dose of testosterone, get your levels back up to where they should be. Like he said, you don't want to be an 18-year-old and like he said, rubbing your junk on everything that is standing still. But if you could get it back to, a 27-year-old or a 30-year-old, you're going to have more energy. You're going to feel better. You're going to just, it's just going to improve the way that you.
I'll talk to my doctor. I've got a doctor's appointment next week anyways for a physical like I go to every 6 months.
Yeah,
I'll talk to them.
They'll
I'll have
test
them.
your blood. They'll see where your levels are at. And like I said, it's such a wide variety with testosterone. I've not ever done testosterone, but I have looked into it a lot because I want to know what my levels are at. But like they say, like anywhere between 4 and 1,000, you're good. Well,
that's a big difference.
Your 800 and my 400 are probably going to be different on the way that we react just on an individual level. But I would definitely, there's a couple things I'd do if I were you. I'd go get my testosterone checked, and then I would, hopefully they're going to put you on some sort of testosterone replacement therapy. And then I would walk twice a day for 20 minutes.
I walked yesterday for 20 minutes. Yesterday, me and Ollie went walking.
That's all I would do. And just get in the sunlight, getting out, getting active. 2 20-minute walks. One in the morning, one in the evening. You're done. Then in 6 months, you're going to feel a lot better. And I would put on a weighted vest with 10 pounds on it.
This is not an excuse. This is the reality. Because there's a guy I follow in New York that's a sports guy, and he walks 19,000 steps a day, and he weighed 600 pounds. He's down to like 320. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
And I can't think of his name. But anyways, this is not an excuse because he's doing it, and I watch him. But there's more opportunities up there to do things like that because you have to walk all the time, anyways.
Right.
The problem we live in is this 40-mile-an-hour wind we're gonna have this afternoon. It is miserable. When I see people, like when we're up northeast somewhere, I'm like, and you see people walking, I'm like, yeah, they're walking. It's not 120 degrees in the summer.
Do it at daylight. Do it at night.
You're right, but that's what I'm saying. That's the difference.
Yeah, but there's always going to be a reason not to do something.
I said it's not an excuse.
Oh.
I just said that our weather
It's not as appealing?
No, not at all. It's not. There's nothing to walk out here at nighttime like a beautiful lake to walk by and see this or that.
No, there's not. But
And I said it's not an excuse, but that's I see where people up north that live in pretty places. It's so much nicer to go outside and go for a walk.
because I think you can walk. How far can you walk in it? How far can
You need to walk 10,000 steps a day. That's the key.
Well, no, just the 20-minute walk. Yeah, so you do a mile. The average person walking, the average walking pace is 1 mile in 20 minutes. So you walk 1 mile in the morning, 1 mile in the evening.
That's 2 miles.
2 miles.
2 miles is 10,000 steps too, I think.
2 miles, you walk 2 miles a day.
Yeah.
Well, now all of a sudden you're walking 14 miles a week. And then, like I said, in 6 months when you're feeling good, put 10 extra pounds on a weighted vest and do your same walk. And then 6 months later, run that last 100 yards. You know, so I mean, it's just start out walking and then incrementally just make it a little bit more challenging.
There's no doubt that sunshine and exercise, walking, whatever you're doing your rolling, people that ride bikes and stuff are usually happier, better people too.
Well, and it just gets you out of not having this in your face.
Yep.
For 20 minutes twice a day, not having your phone connected to you does wonders.
Give everybody a TV new show I've been watching, Crime Story.
See, you've got too much time.
No.
You've got all these
In the
TV
evening,
shows. You
and
got
I've been
time for 2 20-minute walks.
I do. Or I'd just rather do 10,000 step walk 2 miles at once.
No, you need to do it twice a day.
But
You're disconnected from your phone for 40 minutes.
people. There's a new. It's not a new series. It's an old series. It's called. It's Crime Story. It was done in the '86. It's kind of cheesy, but I really have liked it. But there's a guy on Instagram that you've got to follow. Joey Bro.
Joey Bro. I think I do follow him.
He sings. He's a karaoke singer.
Oh yeah. I follow him.
He's absolutely terrible.
From Louisiana. Don't tell him that.
He's your boy that you like so much. Stand By Me guy.
Stephen Wilson Jr.
He's in a video with him. He's been
really?
in Nashville right now. I like him. I put comments on his deal like, Joey, dude, you deserve a Grammy. Tell him, man. Tell him, bud. Tell him about it.
Yeah.
But he's got thousands and thousands. It's entertainment to me. But anyways, check him out on Instagram. Joey Bro. It's JOEY BREAUX. Joey Bro. And Cajun Cooks, I like him too. But anyways, Joey Bro, check him out. But he's not a great singer, but
Well, don't tell him
and
that.
and I love his nunchuck. Gets out with his nunchucks.
Listen, man.
If Tommy Mangus lived in Louisiana, he would be Joey Bro.
You don't want to fuck with Joey Bro when he's got those nunchucks. That's
So
how he
hard.
settled everything on the block.
The other night, I told Michelle about it. She goes, "What?" I said, "Just do it." And I heard her giggling.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh my God, Jeff." I said, "I told you it's amazing."
He's in shape for an old
He
guy.
He is really good. I think he's a retired trucker or something. He eats.
Yeah.
I think he's a carnivore diet guy. He's eating meat and eggs.
Boiled eggs, which sounds phenomenal.
I'm gonna reach out to him, get him on the podcast with us. But anyways, I really enjoy his stuff. But yeah, he's in Nashville right now cutting a movie and doing some stuff. But he's with your singing guy who's got a phenomenal voice.
I told you that a couple years ago.
That guy's going to be the next Teddy Swims.
He sounds like Bruce Springsteen to me.
Don't put that on him.
You don't think so? I think he's a better
singer than.
I don't think that you can
Bruce Hornsby.
I don't think that you can take anything away from Bruce Springsteen.
No, he's
his voice talent.
No, he's good at what he does. I'm just not a Bruce Springsteen.
You don't have to be, but you don't have to diminish what he's done.
I never heard of Teddy Swims till Mom went to see him 2 years ago. He's phenomenal. This guy's in that same kind of, got his own type music and just very, very, very good. Teddy Swims a hell of a story. You know, his dad told him to quit working and go pursue his dreams.
Yeah.
And he did, and he's very, very good, and he's very talented. So anyways, thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a great week.
24 more hours, 22 and a half more hours.
Do we have a Special Forces Navy SEAL guy on next week? Is that next week?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. All right, well, this is the end of this week's stuff, right?
It is.
All right, we got some more stuff to do around here. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a great, wonderful week. Boss hunt. Got a dove hunt, 3-day dove hunt, and we got a 3-day goose hunt. So holler at me if you're interested in either one of those deals. I got openings for both of them. We can take singles, 2s, 3s, 4s, whatever it is. But anyways, holler at me if you're interested. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Watch for deer. Check out all of our great sponsors. Go check out Pacific Calls. It's time to turn your goose calls into turkey calls. Turkey hunting's right around the corner. Use our promo code BHP25 with Pacific Calls. Dive Bomb Industries, Ducks Unlimited, Dirty Duck Coffee, Boss Shot Shell, Shin Gear, They Never Miss, Looking Glass Podcast, Lucky Duck, MLR Graphics, Mossberg, Mallard Bay, Mitchell Chevrolet, and Stampede Outfitters.